We begin with breaking news for you this afternoon. The man accused of shooting and killing another man in North Fargo last summer has been found not guilty. Raymond Gunn was on trial for the death of 41-year-old Eric Hayes, who was shot and killed in the parking lot of a popular North Fargo bar and gas station. The jury deliberated for nearly 5 hours on Friday. They finally had their decision by midday today. The jury reviewed surveillance video evidence which showed Gunn pistol whip Hayes in the head. His attorneys argued self-defense, saying Hayes was armed with a knife.
What would you do? He only fired his weapon when his back was on the ground with nowhere else to go and nothing else to do.
Hayes was found to have meth and alcohol in his system. Had Gunn been convicted, he could have faced life in prison. New for you at 4, it's been nearly 3 years, and the second of 2 men accused in a fatal downtown shooting has learned his fate. A Cass County judge sentenced 22-year-old Kareem Lee Bird to spend the next 25 years in prison in connection to the murder of a Fargo food truck owner. 38-year-old Jay Halverson was shot and killed in the early morning hours of June 7th, 2019. It happened in the 600 block of 4th Street North. Bird's cousin, 32-year-old Charles Harris, pleaded guilty in the case last March and was sentenced to 30 years in prison. Coming up tonight on Valley News Live at 6, hear the emotional cries from Halverson's family in the courtroom this afternoon. Jury selection is expected to begin tomorrow in the trial of a Fargo man charged with killing his then-girlfriend in December 2020. Cody Plumlee is facing several charges, including murder, aggravated assault, and robbery. Police responded to the call of a disturbance on December 7th, 2020 in North Fargo after Plumlee and his girlfriend, Kirsten Noss, got into an argument over car keys. Witnesses told police Plumlee left and came back. They say he started banging on the door and soon kicked it open. Court documents say Plumlee then shoved Nass down a flight of stairs, which knocked her unconscious. She died later that month after being on life support. Documents say Plumlee told police he pushed her because she hit him in the head with a frying pan. If convicted, Plumlee faces the rest of his life in prison. Fargo police have arrested 2 people after an early morning crash in South Fargo. Officials say Anna Wisk was driving westbound on 35th Avenue South just before 4 this morning when a car driven by someone she knew, James Miller, slammed into her. The crash caused her to smash into a tree in the median. Wisk was arrested for DUI. Miller was arrested for felony reckless endangerment. We're expecting a change in the weather midweek. Hutch is here with a first look. Hutch?
Yeah, changes are blowing in as we speak. Stacy, thanks so much, and good Monday afternoon, everyone. Heading into the evening hours, the wind is going to stay. Temperatures not too bad out there. We actually have a couple of flakes of snow. But speaking of what's happening this week, big time changes begin tomorrow night late, and Wednesday is a first alert weather day where there will be some travel impacts. We're expecting a couple of bands of snow to set up. Some of you will get rain and ice too, so it could be a very interesting winter system that has really got spring temperatures, so it's pretty dynamic. Best chance of 3+ inches where you see the dark blue shades, southeast North Dakota, not far from us here in Fargo. That trails up into Lakes Country. Also another band setting up in the Northern Valley. As temperatures will be a little cooler there, your snowflakes might add up just a little bit faster. Again, this is a dynamic storm system and there will be some changes to this, but know this, morning impacts and even afternoon impacts on your Wednesday commute. Right now, gusts are over 35 miles per hour from the south and east, kind of trying to import some warmer air into the area, and along that boundary we do have a few flakes of snow showing up from Roseau County, Greenbush and Badger area heading into the Roseau area. Temperatures are warming up out to the west. It's taken a bit of time here in the valley. We're still in the 30s. I'll have hour-by-hour details on what you can expect as we head into, well, our stormy system beginning tomorrow night in a few minutes.
All right, thanks, Hutch. Well, despite more snow in this week's forecast, most of what we had has melted. Unfortunately, it's revealing a lot of junk everywhere. We here at Valley News Live hope you'll take part in our garbage bag challenge. Grab a garbage bag and focus on the outside of your home, your apartment building, or your neighborhood. The goal is to fill your bag with trash. Once it's done, take a selfie or have someone take your picture and proudly send it to us at valleynewslive.com. Your photo will be alongside others who are cleaning up before we green up. The number of people who fled Ukraine is nearing 4 million, according to the UN Refugee Agency. The most intense fighting is now happening in eastern Ukraine, where Russia is concentrating its efforts and may be focused on trying to split off part of the country. Skylar Henry has the latest.
Ukrainians in the southern city of Kherson took to the streets to protest the Russian invasion and occupation, as explosions could be heard in the distance. Pentagon officials believe Russia has launched nearly 1,400 missiles into Ukraine, but isn't furthering its advance on the capital city, Kyiv. The Kremlin says ceasefire negotiations will resume Tuesday. And Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says he's ready for a compromise in the eastern Donbas region, which has been partially controlled by Russia-backed separatists since 2014. Here in Washington, President Biden is downplaying unscripted comments he made over the weekend when he said Russian President Vladimir Putin cannot remain in power.
I want to make it clear, I wasn't then, nor am I now, articulating a policy change. I was expressing the moral outrage that I feel, and I make no apologies for it.
Idaho Senator Jim Risch, the ranking Republican member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, called President Biden's comment a, quote, horrendous gaffe. Skyler Henry, CBS News, the White House.
The Kremlin said it's not up to President Biden or any American to decide who will run Russia, saying that's up to Russian voters. Well, Russia's war on Ukraine has most Americans at least somewhat worried that the U.S. will be drawn directly into the conflict and could be targeted with nuclear weapons. The Associated Press says close to half of Americans say they're very concerned that Russia would directly target the U.S. with nuclear weapons. Roughly 9 in 10 Americans, they say, are concerned of weapons being used in Ukraine, with 71% now worried about nuclear weapons anywhere in the world. The poll was conducted before North Korea test-fired its biggest intercontinental ballistic missile on Friday. Another budget issue that's top of mind in Washington is COVID relief. In about 1 week, the government will run out of money to reimburse doctors and other healthcare providers for COVID vaccines. Emergency funding for testing and treatment has already run dry. The COVID relief program has been on shaky ground since GOP lawmakers blocked additional aid requested by the Biden administration. Today, President Biden released his latest budget, which focuses on more military spending and funding police departments, while taxing the wealthiest Americans to help tackle the massive budget deficit. But will it pass Congress? Deborah Alfarone has the latest.
A memorial on this Los Angeles street corner marks the place where a child and his babysitter died tragically earlier this month. Police say Aliyah Morales was walking.
Chairman Bernie Sanders says the Senate Budget Committee will hold its first hearing on the president's budget on Wednesday. Well, if you're unlucky enough to get COVID and the flu at the same time, evidence suggests an increased risk of severe illness. Researchers in Scotland, England, and the Netherlands studied more than 300,000 adults hospitalized with COVID within the last 2 years. A small amount.
We found that if you have COVID and you also test positive for flu in hospital, then your risk of dying is doubled, and your risk of needing a life support machine or a ventilator is.
As both viruses circulate, researchers expect the mixed infection to become more common. They say anyone offered vaccines against COVID or the flu should get them. Though gas prices have dropped slightly, they're still expected to stay high over the summer travel months. Then gas prices won't just be hitting people at the pump, but on the water too. For sport fishers, casual fishermen, or those who enjoy a day pontooning on the lake, that hobby might be a little pricier this year. Some of the hardest hit will be businesses who offer fishing or recreation tours, who had already had to start raising some of their prices ahead of the season.
Now I'm adding $300, $400, $500 on a fuel surcharge. And they weren't planning on that when they booked the trip 3 months ago.
Between gas prices, inflation, and supply chain issues, many are just hoping they can keep their businesses afloat. Congress will vote on a new budget package soon.
President Biden unveiled his nearly $6 trillion budget proposal for fiscal year 2023.
We're reducing the Trump deficits and returning our fiscal house to order.
It proposes a corporate tax rate increase to 28% and a billionaire minimum income tax, which would require households making more than $100 million to pay 20% on their total annual income.
A firefighter and a teacher pay more than double the tax rate that a billionaire pays. That's not right.
The president's budget also takes aim at reducing crime with more than $30 billion for community policing and law enforcement. But it comes as Americans are facing the fastest inflation hike in 40 years.
If the spending side goes through, but the revenue side does not, that would increase the debt and also run the risk of overstimulating the economy, contributing to rising inflation.
Democratic leaders here on Capitol Hill have praised the president's budget as bold and strong, but it faces an uphill battle in an evenly divided Senate.
The White House is desperately spinning to call this budget centrist, but there's nothing remotely moderate about what's in it.
The president's proposed increase in Pentagon spending as Russia wages war in Ukraine has drawn criticism from some allies. Senate Budget Committee Chairman Bernie Sanders said in a statement, at a time when we are already spending more on the military than the next 11 countries combined, no, we do not need a massive increase in the defense budget. Deborah Alfarone, CBS News, Capitol Hill.